Hey, what's going on, folks? It's the Cassius Morris Show. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. Coming at you guys with a brand new episode, brand new interview with a very unique guest, Andrew Sgambati. Andrew is a filmmaker. He's a huge Kiss fan, and he's somebody who's been in the Kiss world in many different capacities for at least the past 20 years. He's been on tour with Kiss, as he discusses in this podcast that you're about to hear. He was in a Kiss tribute band playing the Catman for 15 years. He knows all the ins and outs of that world. We touch a little bit on it. We talk mostly about his filmmaking in the Kiss world and his personal relationship with the band. He has his new film out, Greatest Show on Earth. Make sure to go check him out on Vimeo. I have the link in the written matter of this podcast in the description, so make sure that you go check it out. And I really enjoyed it personally. As a Kiss fan, it had a couple little tidbits in there that I haven't seen, and that's something rare. You know, in terms of Kiss interviews and knowledge, I pretty much have it all in my brain. But this was something really cool. And if you're a Kiss fan, I definitely recommend checking it out. And it's really a pleasure to watch because it takes you into the 70s. And, that's essentially what we discussed in this interview. This podcast doesn't really need much introduction. But I thank Andrew for coming on the show. And I encourage you guys to check him out and hear out his story. So we're going to get into this podcast right now. Let's run it. Andrew Sgambati, thank you for joining me on the Cassius Morris Show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I mean, we go way back. I remember we did an episode of, I believe it was Podcast together, probably 5 or 6 years ago now, if I'm remembering correctly.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, this episode is definitely a while in the making. We have broadcasted before.
Yeah, yes.
It's good to have you though, man. Definitely. You're a really interesting dude. I always keep up with your social media posts, and
Yep.
I've had a lot of questions about your history. So, but of course, you're here talking about the Greatest Show on Earth. So, Greatest Show on Earth. Tell me about that. Essentially, for someone who's never heard of the project, what is the project, and sort of, I guess, what inspired it?
So the project was something that was almost 2 years in the making. It was me kind of seeing all these other great 70s and 80s bands that had the, Led Zeppelin has Song Remains the Same.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple. There's David Bowie movies, there's Rolling Stone movies, there's even a Doobie Brothers movie, but there was never a Kiss one. So I thought, well, why don't I make something that could have been what Kiss could have released at their height in the 70s? I know we had Phantom of the Park, and I know, years later we had Detroit Rock City and then this Scooby-Doo movie, but I wanted something that showcased Kiss in their prime live, loud, live, chrome. I just basically wanted something that was going to be a great visual representation for them on that Love Gun Alive 2 tour, because I think that's Kiss at their best. And I had this idea. I was like, what if I took Kiss Alive 2 and I synced it to these concerts that are available from the time period? I didn't know what I was going to do with it, so I kind of just threw it out there without my name or anything on it. And people started talking about it. I mean, it was posted on the Kiss FAQ board, and I saw people sharing it on Facebook. And then I finally realized that people kind of knew that it was me. So I had to, I slightly re-edited it and I put my name on it and I put it out there. So that got about 100,000 views when the initial release happened in October 2018.
Nice.
Then unfortunately YouTube took it down because
there's music in it, I'd assume.
Well, yeah, but there always was the music that was in there, so it was already demonetized the very first time I uploaded it.
Right.
So I guess there was some similarities between, I think it was Kiss Confidential or Extreme Close-Up, and just the YouTube algorithms just popped it. So it was taken down, and then I put it up on Vimeo, and then I just kind of let it sit there for a while, and then this past October I re-released it as the Encore edition, where I kind of remastered it, brand new color correction, brand new edit, added 2 additional songs, and that's where it takes us to today. So I've been out here talking about the Encore edition for the last couple months. It's on Facebook, so if you are looking where you can find the film, you can go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/greatest show on earth kiss, and you could see it there. So that's where we're at today. So The Greatest Show on Earth is the Kiss fan film that should have happened in 1978.
There you go. I like that. Like I said to you on Messenger there, it's it's sort of a good time capsule of a period in which we weren't in, and I especially in the beginning, I sort of felt like I was being taken a walk through the streets of New York City in the 70s. It was like it really brings you into that world. The other thing that I liked about it is that there's so many Kiss films out there that are, it's like a documentary of how they started, so to speak. It's sort of trying to show where they ended up as opposed to where they began. What I liked about this is that, it talks about their beginnings, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's not necessarily trying to prove any point other than showing you how great Kiss was live back in the day and highlight that. So it was just refreshing to see something that simply celebrated their live performance. And it had me and my sister, we were watching it together, and she's not a huge Kiss fan, but she's been around it, and she was just saying, damn, they were really something else in the 70s. So I appreciate that you did it that way.
It was an odd thing because the very first cut of the film, I was sort of telling two different stories. I was telling my personal history, and then I was kind of going back and forth with the 70s. And
Right.
and I thought it did a huge disservice to Kiss and how powerful they were in the 70s. And I immediately took that stuff out, and I was like, I really have to focus on this great visual band that happened in the 70s. And you really have to take it back, because I think if I would have edited it and presented it in modern times, meaning if I would have done a lot more digital editing and if I would have done more, like if I would have edited like it was edited today, a lot of
Effects and all
fast-paced,
this stuff.
yeah, a lot of additional post-production, I think it would have done a disservice to it. So
Right.
what I had to do is I just was watching so many different films from that period, and I was watching so many things because I wanted to be able to sit in that time period, because it needed to just show Kiss up until and including that point, because that had never been done before. You had these other things like, you had these VH1 documentaries that they are a product of their time. And what I mean by that is if you watch, those 2001, 2002, 2003 things that were aired on TV, you're like, oh, this was made in the 2000s. They're looking back at their history. They're not telling you the history how it was at that present time.
Right,
So I
exactly.
decided that I needed to set this in the 70s, and I needed to have Kiss tell their story at that time. Because if you ask Paul Stanley what Kiss's history was in 1977, and then you ask him what Kiss's history was in 2019, you're going to get two very different answers.
Completely different. Yeah.
Yes. And that's not a slam, because I'm a huge supporter of the current band. I'm a huge supporter of every lineup of the band.
No, it's just a
But
matter of perspective throughout the years.
yes, and I wanted to tell this story in the 70s, a period that I wasn't around in, but I thought I knew enough about the 70s that I would be able to take you back. One of the very first things that I found that footage of the Kiss Alive 2 billboard in Times Square, which a lot of people don't believe that that's Times Square because there's no giant LED boards and signs around it. That's what Times Square looked like in
Right.
November and December of 1977. So once I found that, I go, well, let's take it back. Let's show some footage of New York City back then. Let's show what was popular. Rocky was hugely popular. The blackout, New York City blackout, was popular. Elvis passing away.
Yeah.
And Star Wars. Those are the biggest things in the late 70s. So to
And
take
some
you
of Paul's favorite things.
yeah, and so Paul's favorite thing. So it takes you back. It brings you back into this mindset where, okay, this is where we're going, and I think doing it that way, when you finally see Kiss, you're like, oh, this all makes sense, because I think one of the things that a lot of these documentaries and things they do wrong is they show current Kiss footage and then they kind of show old Kiss footage, and they kind of mix and match a lot of things where, yes, this band is very powerful and has been very powerful for almost 50 years. But when you're jumping back and forth, especially with young kids like yourself and even younger and even older, people are used to a certain quality of picture. People are used to a certain way things are shot. So it takes away from it. So
Yeah.
again, I just wanted to tell that story in the late 70s.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, and I like that you touched on Kiss telling their own story. at that period
Yes.
of time. That was another cool thing about it. And it was funny. I was watching it with my sister, and she was like, they said that they're all from New York. I didn't know that. I was like, no, it's not true. Like, it's genes from Israel and stuff. And a lot of documentaries, you would see them talking about that fact. But Gene, they were like, we're all from New York City. And again, that was the narrative that they had out there at
Yeah.
that period of time. uh Question for you, going back, you mentioned your own history with Kiss. With you, it's always the Catman. Just curious, why the Catman? What made you gravitate towards that character and persona, and when did that start?
Well, it was funny. You have these pictures of these four larger than life characters on your wall, and I always loved comics and cartoons and all that stuff. So I had these larger than life superheroes on my wall. So of course Batman's not real, but Kiss is.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was growing up, I'm looking, and I really wasn't. I didn't learn how to play musical instruments until a lot later in my life. I think I was 14 by the time I started actually playing drums. So when you're looking at this, and I have no musical knowledge at this point, but I see Paul Stanley, playing guitar and doing all the stuff and writing songs, and I go, yeah, I probably can't do that. And then you see Ace Frehley, the guitar is smoking and on fire. He's writing these solos, he's singing, and I'm going, yeah, you know what? I probably can't do that. And I see Gene playing bass and spitting blood and breathing fire. I go, yeah, I probably can't do that. And then I see Peter on the drums, and I go, maybe I can do that.
Right. I like that.
But it was like I played for guitar maybe for 6 months, and it didn't click with me. But then for me, I just picked up the drums. I never took a lesson in my life, and I just go, this is what I'm doing. And I started playing drums, and I was in the school marching band just like Tommy Lee, and I was in little original bands here and there. But it always came back to Peter Criss, Eric Carr, and Eric Singer later on.
Mm-hmm.
So it started like that, and then once I joined my very first Kiss tribute band in 2002, it was easy. I played drums, so I'm the Catman. So I became this persona. Now there are a lot of people do the same thing. They kind of let it go to their heads. They go, I am Peter Criss, and I am this. For me, this was me being able to have Halloween dress up all year round, and that's really all it was for me. It
Right.
was a lot of fun when it was fun, and when it became not fun, that's when I left. So, but I did it for a really, really, really long time, and it was the similarities between the Catman and me. That's kind of how I got into it. Because I was a drummer, I was always the Catman, and I was always at all these Kiss events, dressed up, and people knew me from bands, and so it took on a life of its own. So I was no longer Andrew to these people. I was the Catman, and I was more than happy to play that role. And I understood really early on that nobody cared about me. That's not a slam. They cared about the character. So I just did the character justice, and that's what I did.
Right. Yeah, essentially, they aren't buying Andrew tickets; they're buying Kiss tribute tickets, and they want to see the Catman and the Star Child, etc. Which is a good
Correct.
perspective because, as you said, a lot of people they sort of, and the tribute world is an interesting world because some of those people
Yeah.
do take it too seriously, right?
Yes, they lose sight of it. They lose sight of it. They think that I'm in this role and people are coming to see me and they care about me, when that's the farthest thing from the truth. If I was in some original band and I was selling 1 million records, then yes, people would care about me on that stage. But it's not. It wasn't. People cared about that character. So I knew that I just wanted to play that character the best that I could, the very, very best that I could, and that's what put the butts in the seats. So I never lost sight of that. I knew that once the makeup came off, I was just a regular guy again. And that's really interesting because that's kind of how Kiss was in the 70s. They were these larger than life characters on stage, and they almost had normal lives once the makeup came off. They weren't. They were recognized a little bit, but for all intents and purposes, they could live a fairly unknown life without the makeup, and that was great. I remember, people would literally be yelling my name because they had followed the band for so long, so they weren't yelling Peter, Peter. They were yelling my name on stage, and then I would get off stage, put like a ball cap on, pull my hair back, and just wear regular clothes, and they would have no idea who I was.
But they knew who you were, even though you were in the makeup. But like they knew the name.
They knew it because we had done so many interviews and there were bios, and so people knew me in the makeup in the band. But as soon as the makeup came off, I was able to live a pretty normal life. Not to say this was my livelihood and blah blah blah, but this was just my fun. But when you're playing some of these fairs and some of these festivals and some of these, I'm not going to say backwoods towns, but I'm just going to say not major cities.
Right.
It was a big deal for them, so they wanted to see these guys, and so I was able to just walk around fairly unknown. It was great.
So you got the real Kiss experience.
I got the real Kiss experience, and I did that for about 15 years. Across about a I think it was about a half dozen bands that I was in. Obviously wasn't, and I'm not going to credit any of the name of the bands because they're not getting any free promotion from me anymore. But
right.
But yeah, I mean, it was. I took it as far as I could take it, and now I'm doing something else.
So were you just like a regular suit and tie guy in the meantime with that, or were you doing something like what was your other type of thing? Do you talk about it?
Yeah, I've always been a suit and tie guy. I'm in the mortgage industry, and I have been for about 11 years now. So
cool.
it was very much a Clark Kent Superman thing. I'd literally wear a suit and tie to work every day.
Right.
And then do this on the weekends, and I do it today. The only difference today is I work for a different company that I can wear jeans and t-shirts to work. But I go to work every day, and then I do cool things like this on the weekends. So it's the best of both worlds.
Now, the reason I think it's cool and the reason why I even ask is because is there any crossover of that world? Do people know what you're doing on the side, or do you keep it super, Clark Kent and just not talk about it?
I talk about it a little bit. My boss is very supportive with all of this stuff, and he tells a lot of people about that. He brings into the office. However, when it comes time to my social media pages, I don't really broadcast where I work or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Just because I feel I don't take social media seriously. I'm either on there promoting a friend's work, or I'm just telling jokes. So for me, I prefer, because there's thousands of people on there. Most of them I don't even know, but mm-hmm. I appreciate them for supporting my work. But they don't need to know that life. They don't need to peek behind the curtain all the time. So they just get those little nuggets of life. And I think a lot of people should kind of act like that.
Yeah.
I think this isn't your journal. I think people should just not take it seriously. And I'm not getting into political arguments with anybody on there.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with certain people. I disagree with certain people. But, hey, we should just be having fun and, maybe making fun of someone's spelling errors or posting a funny cat video, or looking at cool Kiss pictures. I've seen more Kiss pictures on social media than I have, being on the internet for 20 years. So that's what it's about for me. So yeah, I try to keep it a little bit separate. I don't have to pull my hair back at work anymore, but I used to for a really long time. And I even thought about for a little while, wearing a short-haired wig, because I knew someone that had done that. Someone had long hair but just wore a short hair wig, which I thought was hilarious. But no, I mean, I'm a pretty straight-laced guy Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends it used to be playing shows and doing that, and now it's making movies like this. So I absolutely love it.
I like that. I like that a lot, and I think it's cool that you managed to find that type of balance. It's interesting, and with the social media, it's true. A lot of people do take it way too seriously, and they're trying to make points about the world's most serious issues, and everybody's got it figured out. I like that you just take the approach that, listen, I'm just, and it's sort of the approach that I've started to take even more so now. Is just like, I'm just trying to make people smile if I can. I'm just trying to, if there's something interesting, if there's something, like it doesn't have to be heavy-handed. In other words, I like that.
No, not at all, not at all. And what was cool for me is, for about 2 months I was really heavily promoting the Greatest Show on Earth, the Encore Edition. And I remember after it was out, I'm like, oh, finally, I could go back to posting silly, stupid things that I like, because I wasn't in that promotion mindset anymore. It's not supposed to be heavy. We're supposed to be sharing things and enjoying things. I mean, I'm not peddling or selling any merchandise, but, for me as an artist, if someone wants to like or share my stuff, then the lottery's been won. And I'm fortunate that I have Facebook that allow me to do that.
Right. Totally true. So you mentioned 15 years in Kiss tribute. That's a long time. At
really
what
long.
point did you start meeting the band? Because I know you've met the band a number of times.
Yeah, I've worked with Gene Simmons and Gene Simmons Moneybag Soda just recently in the last 2 years, but there's a weird thing because I know you're a little bit younger than me, but there's an even younger generation of Kiss fans now,
Mm-hmm.
which I never thought was going to happen. But
It's
when I
crazy.
was first like fanatically into the band in 95, 96, 97, that was it. After me, there wasn't another group of Kiss fans that was coming. I was the youngest Kiss fan at this point, and I was the youngest for I mean, people think it's funny, but like for a really long time, there was a gap missing. There was no young Kiss fans in that era. So when I would go see the band on the reunion tour and the Psycho Circus tour and the farewell tour, if young kids were there, it's because they were with their parents, not because they were just as fanatical as their parents. It was more of a rite of passage for them. It was family night. They were going to see Kiss, and maybe those kids ended up becoming fans. But I tell you, for a long time, I was the young kid. So, and I mentioned that because I was the young kid, I was fortunate enough to meet people who were close with the band, and they go, well, Andrew's a young kid. He's 15 years old. Of course, we can go have dinner with Eric Singer, or we're going to take you backstage, and here's your first laminate pass. And so, because I was so young, and because there was that generational gap, I just kind of got brought in under the wing and just never left. So,
Right.
it's one of those cool things where Gene Simmons calls me Paul McCartney. I spent my 22nd birthday with Paul Stanley at an art show. Now, you have to purchase art to get into this art show, but the gallery owner ended up being a friend of mine, and she brought me in, and I remember Paul needed to take a break, so they emptied out the gallery, but they go, no, 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 you can stay. And Paul just came out, and he was just bullshitting with me, just talking with me. And I couldn't believe it. And it was after, because I went with them on their Japanese tour in 2006. And I stayed in the same hotels and had breakfast with them and
Wow.
did all these cool things with them. But what was cool about that is this was 2008, and that was 2 years ago. Paul was talking to me. He goes, "Hey, you're going to come to Europe? I know you were in Japan." Like, he remembered, and something just and listen, probably somebody told them right before that, but to me that was just cool that he was just talking to me, and we were just talking. I wasn't getting a stack of things signed.
Yeah.
And even like right before, Paul goes, "Well, hey, I hear it's your birthday. Let's get a picture together."
Wow.
And I was like, "Cool." And that's one of the coolest pictures I have with any Kiss member to
I've seen
this
that
day.
picture actually, I think.
Yeah, to this day.
Unless
So
you have two pictures with him at a gallery.
no, that's the one. That's the one. And I've just been lucky. I've just been in the right place at the right time, and being around these Kiss expos and working with guys like Steve and Keith, and I've just been awarded this closeness with the band. I mean, listen, none of the members of the band are going to be inviting me over for holidays, but
Right.
if I'm around, no one's going to tell me to piss off. There's
Right.
a huge mutual respect. I'm not super fanboy around them. They're just people, and it's really, really cool to do that. One of the coolest things that had happened is Gene Simmons Moneybag Soda just launched back in September of 2018. Wow, that's a year ago now. I can't believe that. And I was there, filming and documenting for them, and it was Gene Simmons' last solo band show because they had just announced the end of the road tour, and Gene was doing one more solo show. So I was there, and his publicist was like, "Hey, do you want to film the show for Gene?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So I was there in the photo pit. I got to video the whole show, and then a fan took a picture of me filming Gene.
Nice.
And I remember there was another Moneybag Soda event at one of the end of the road shows, and I had the picture blown up, and I brought it with me. And I go, "Hey, Gene, I don't do this." I go, "But would you sign this for me?" He looked at it and he goes, "Well, yeah, I remember this." And we started talking, and he's like, "Oh, I'll absolutely." And he signed it for me. So that was probably one of the coolest things.
That's awesome.
And so because I was so young, that's kind of how I got brought in. Now, that's not to say that I didn't do my fair share of, standing out online and doing all that stuff, because I did stand out online outside of Tower Records in 2001 to meet Gene and Paul for the box set. But I met the right people, just right place at the right time. And what's even cool is There was one night I'm sitting there, just texting with Eric, and we're just sharing jokes, and it's just it's so cool to me that guy take time out of his day to just tell some jokes to me, or just ask how I'm doing, or just send me a funny meme. It's just it's cool. I mean, you've been with Eric too, so you know that Eric's one of the coolest guys, one of the nicest down to earth musicians I've ever met.
Oh, definitely, man. And I mean, like listening to your experience, I can definitely relate. Like, for sure. I mean, I came in at a young age, as a similar thing, and it's just a testament to how great those guys are, that they actually care.
Yes,
yeah, it's like, sometimes I've thought about it, and I thought, and this isn't a knock at any band, it's really not, but maybe if I was a Metallica fan, or a fan of a bigger band like that, or an AC/DC fan might be a better example, I may have never even gotten a response yet, and I could be 21. I could have maybe never gotten any interaction from any of the band.
Yes.
So it's a testament to their character, I think.
Yes, and it was experiences like that which is what fueled my fire to create things like The Greatest Show on Earth, because it comes from an extreme passion. It really does. I'm not out there trying to sell this. I've actually been very, very outspoken about, I don't want people downloading it. I don't want copies being made. I don't want to go to an expo and see $15 DVDs on sale.
Right.
That's not what I want. That's not what this was about. There's a huge fan film community out there with Star Wars and Star Trek, and this is a Kiss fan film. I took stuff that was officially released and I re-edited it. So that was the initial purpose behind this. Now, the reason why I'm out here talking about it and posting about it and doing all these things is because I do want to get the band's attention. I want the band to see this, and number one, see that people want to see this, and hey, maybe hire me for a project. So
hey, why not?
That would be cool. So
well, listen, you're going about it the right way. You're not selling anything. You put a nice disclaimer in the beginning that, listen, this is all public record. There's places to buy this stuff, and you're simply just doing it out of the goodness of your heart. So yes. I think that there's potential.
Please buy it.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, I go, you want to support the film? Don't send me money. I'm not going to sell you a poster, or go buy another copy of Kiss Alive 2, or go buy a Kiss Alive 2 shirt, or go buy some concert tickets. I mean, that's how you can support this film. And I truly believe that if enough people do it, it'll eventually get back to them. Or maybe it's already gotten back to them. You
right.
know, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, they look a lot, man.
Yeah, I mean, every time I've been around the band, I've always been there to do a job. And what I mean by that is, the last time I was around Gene and with Gene, I was there with the Moneybag Soda people. So it wasn't right of me to be like, hey, Gene, I got this thing, I want you to see this. No. I was there with the Moneybag people. So I had to be professional, and I was there for the soda, and everything else just didn't matter. So if I get the opportunity to get back there on my own and not have additional things that I need to do, then I'll talk to them about it. But for now, I'm hoping they find out about it. I'm hoping Tommy Thayer calls me up one day and says, hey, I saw this, and I did the last video, and maybe you do the next one. Who knows? Stranger things have happened.
No, man, definitely. I mean, hey, Tommy can attest to that. I mean, seriously, he's his fantasies come true, and I'd say it's a little wilder than that. So, definitely I support that. Tommy's a guy I'd love to interview too. He's an interesting cat, because he really is a quiet guy, and I know that he's got to have some interesting theories on some stuff. I don't know if you've talked to him much. I haven't.
Well, here's what I'll tell you about Tommy. And I don't know Tommy that well, but I know that Tommy is the nicest guy in Kiss. And that's not a knock to any of the other guys in Kiss, but he's the consummate professional.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard a slang word out of Tommy's mouth about anyone else. He's the guy that's always there, always professional. He's always, been great to me, and always given me the thumbs up and all that stuff. So, it's all good. But he's got to have interesting stories, like you said, because he's been there for almost 30 years. He wrote with Gene and Ron Keel back then, and he helped with the Hot in the Shade demos. He was helping with History. He was the road manager on the reunion tour.
It's crazy.
He helped put together the box set. I mean, this guy paid his dues. This guy, he deserves to be there. And I'm a huge Tommy Thayer fan.
Yeah, he's a fascinating guy. You know, and like you said, consummate professional. That is the definition of him. He shows up. He says, "I'm the guy in Kiss. I'll sign every autograph, take every picture. I'll go play every note, and I'm gonna go home." And it's not the Tommy Thayer show. It's he just does his job.
Yeah, yeah. So does Eric, for that matter. So does Eric, for that matter.
Oh, I mean, Eric's one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. Period. You know, I mean, he's just a great guy. You know, I mean, I've never heard a bad word about him, and if anyone says it, you know, I'll be the first one to challenge it because he's, you know, and it's true. You know, and I think it's cool that we're talking about this because we are in a unique position where we have got the chance to spend some time with these dudes. I gotta ask, I gotta go back. How do you end up going on tour with the band? And like, were you working at that point as well, or were you just?
No. I wasn't working with them. One of my really, really close friends, he was their photographer for a while. I think from like 2003 to like 2009, 10, 11ish. Wow. And he was one of the first people to kind of take me in. So. Because he was like with the band, I was just like always with him. So like if he was in the photo pit taking photos, I was in the front row, and whatever he needed help with, I was there to help him with it. So nice. I was able to go because he was there. So I wasn't working with the band. I wasn't part of the entourage. I was just one of my really great friends. He was with the band at the time, and he allowed me to come along. So that meant staying at the same hotels with them. That meant. You know, there's a great picture, and I'll remember to send it to you. There's a great picture that I had breakfast with Gene in Fukuoka, Japan, and Gene has this great smile on his face when he took this picture with me, and you could tell that it's a genuine smile. Mm-hmm. Like he was genuinely happy to have that moment there. So it was cool. It was cool. Like I said, I was just at the right place at the right time. I was able to meet the right people, and then they were nice enough to take me along and say, "Hey, I know that you're going to appreciate this, and you know we're going to do something cool." So there's a really great story, and I think this was in Osaka, Japan. I can't remember. I think it was either in Osaka or Tokyo, but we had just gotten done with breakfast, and I had to go up to my room for something. So I left the group of guys, walk over to the elevator. I went up, I got some, I came back down, said my goodbyes, and I was going back up, and I remember going back up. The elevator door stops, and the elevator door opens. And Tommy walks in, Eric walks in, and Paul Stanley walks in. And there's like a fan just like talking Paul Stanley's ear. You could tell, you know, Paul really just didn't want to be there. So, but you know, Eric and I are talking, and then Eric, you know, we were telling some jokes or something. And Eric goes, "Yeah, hey Andrew, tell Paul that story." So I'm talking to Paul, but this fan that had followed him in the elevator just wouldn't shut up. So finally, Paul goes, "Hey, will you be quiet?" And he goes, "Andrew, what were you saying?" And it was just it was weird to me where I was like, oh my God, like he's telling somebody else to shut up so he can listen to me.
Yeah, I'm trying to have a conversation, pal.
Yeah, I'm not even that funny, but it was a really, really cool moment. That was the night that he gave me the guitar too. So I was in the photo pit with my friends. It was a festival. Mm-hmm. And so the photo pit was a little bit bigger than normal. So we were all sitting in the photo pit. And it came time to smash the guitar. He held it up. He looked at me, pointed at me. I got up, and he handed me the guitar.
Wow.
So that was really cool. That was before he started selling them. Right. And then they all signed up for me the next night. So I had the whole band on that guitar. So that was really cool. I'll always remember that. Hey, I got the blood cup that night too.
Oh, you went all out that night.
Yeah, he threw it. Gene threw it at me, and it landed on my shoes. Covered my shoes in the blood, but I still got the blood cup. So,
that's funny.
So it was cool, you know. Like I said, right place, right time, and they kind of let me into that, and they let me experience that, and that's something that I'll never forget. That I'll never ever forget.
Well, how could you? I mean, that's amazing. Yeah. It's tough. It's tougher now, you know. Like there's less opportunity for photographers and stuff, but at the same time, they've been doing it for so long. I think that they're at a comfortable position where they have their camp and it's like a well-oiled machine now, and they have it run a certain way, and I think that's okay too.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. There's an even cooler story that happened. It was the last show of the Sonic Boom tour, December 2009. And I was back there with my same group of friends, and Eric was back there, and he was talking to a friend, and my friend was busting Eric's chops. He's like, "Hey Eric, I would have brought something for you to sign, but I didn't know if it was going to be you or Peter Criss here." And Eric goes, "Well, Peter Criss is here," and he pointed to me because Eric had known that I was in the treatment at the time. But it was cool. So right after that, the band was kind of doing sound check, kind of not doing sound checks, but Eric took me, my friend, and another guy up to the drum riser, and I got to sit on the drum riser. And Eric goes, "Hey, will you take it up?" So he took it up, and the drum riser started going up. So I got to ride the drum riser, and then he brought it. So then he brought it down. So it was really really cool. And that was one of the coolest moments. And he didn't have to do that, but he did, and it was super cool. I wish I had a picture. It's one of those things where, like, when you're experiencing stuff like that, I didn't have an iPhone at the time, so I didn't have a camera phone in my pocket.
Sure.
So, but it was just one of those things where I was just in the moment, and I didn't take any pictures. So
it's just one of those things that happens.
Yeah, it just happened, and that was the night that Gene started calling me Paul McCartney, and he's called me Paul McCartney ever since.
So you're Peter Criss and Paul McCartney all in one. That's a damn good compliment. I'll take it. I would take it.
I do, and maybe he doesn't know my name all the time, but he's always like, "Hey, Paul McCartney." So every time, so it's really really cool. It's really really cool.
That's fantastic, man. Some great stories. It's great that you have that closeness. Greatest show on earth. What's the biggest thing that sets it apart from other Kiss DVDs? I know we talked about the fact that it's Kiss telling their own story.
Well, what sets it apart, first and foremost, is the focus is concert footage. And the focus is you seeing these larger-than-life images and hearing how awesome Kiss Alive 2 sounds. So whereas you have these cool documentaries like Behind the Makeup and Ultimate Albums and When Kiss Ruled the World, the focus of that was these interviews that they had done that are telling the story. This one, the focus was a concert, very similarly to Led Zeppelin's Song Remains the Same, where that movie was the Madison Square Garden show from '73. This focal point is the concert footage and taking you back to what Kiss was like live back then. Because remember, there was no YouTube, there was no Vimeo, there wasn't any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. To see Kiss live, you had to actually go. So the focus of this is the concert footage. The interview stuff and them telling the story, that was just another layer of it. For me, I wanted the audio to sound as cool as the video looked. Because, I mean, these were things that were shot by in-house video crews. They didn't have a film crew follow them around. They didn't have this giant budget of capturing stuff professionally. They had some people shoot these things, and they looked cool. They didn't really sound great. So I was like, well, how can we make it cooler? So the way you make it cooler is you're seeing them at Houston and at Largo, but then you're hearing Kiss Alive too. Yeah. So it differs because I wanted it to give you the best in-concert experience that I could.
Exactly. I like that. And you got me because you were showing some of my favorite Kiss songs, like Shock Me and Making Love from Alive 2. I mean, that's like my top stuff. It was really a testament to Ace too. And without spoiling it, there's the one Ace interview in there. I don't know how you found that. I've probably seen I thought I'd seen every tidbit. I'd never seen that Ace interview where he's talking about his past. That was a crazy clip there.
Oh, that's actually from 2020. That's actually a 1979 clip, but because you don't see them in makeup and costume, I was like, oh, I can use that because it's just really cool. So that interview 2020 from 1979, it has Gene, Paul, and Ace. They didn't do a Peter one for some reason. That's why I didn't include it. But yeah, that comes from 2020. So it's just I took all these things to just say you have to suspend a little bit of disbelief. You have to take yourself back because there's going to be people who are going to pick it apart and say, oh, well, that's from then. This is from there. There's even a little clip from 1982 in there just because I needed something else to tell the story.
Right.
So again, it differs because I wanted the focus to be live Kiss.
Speaking of 2020, the year 2020, it's upon us. We got the end of the road coming. And now Paul Stanley and Doc McGee on the Kiss Cruise, if people have been following it, have talked about the fact that they're willing to include all living members, past and present, of Kiss in the final show. Curious, what are your thoughts on that, and what are your expectations for the closing of Kiss with the End of the Road tour?
Well, I would think it's going to be great if they can get back on stage, something like they did with Unplugged in '95. But I think if people are under the assumption that Ace Frehley's going to walk out in his Love Gun Alive 2 costume and play Shock Me, they're in for a rude awakening.
Yes.
The band is still going to be Tommy and Eric, and the band will be Tommy and Eric until the last note is played. But I can see Bruce Kulick coming up there and playing Unholy. I can see I could see them getting a little bit looser than they have been in the past 30 years. A Kiss show is much more like a Broadway show than it is a concert. Everything is choreographed and everything is set up to hit a certain mark, and the lights are doing certain things and everything else. So there's really not a whole lot of time for improvisation. So you're not going to see a guy walk up in street clothes and play Reason to Live. But at the last show, you might see Bruce Kulick jump on stage and they might do Hide Your Heart. That would be cool.
Yeah,
they
I'd love
might
to see something like that.
Yeah, Peter might come out and sing Beth. I think the version that Eric has been doing of Beth on the last tour with the grand piano raising up out of the floor was awesome. But I could see them, Peter coming out and doing that, and then I could see the whole band on stage for Rock and Roll Night. I think that'd be a great way to end it. I never expected past members to be on certain end of the road dates based on where they were. I always thought that Kiss was going to be this until the very last show. So, my 39th Kiss show will be in Buffalo, New York, this coming February, and I always wanted to make it to an even 40.
Wow.
So I might end up going to the last show, if that'll be number 40.
That's crazy.
I don't know. I don't know. I hope they film it for a DVD. I'm hoping I'm able to kind of watch it. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm here till the end. That's I'm here till the end.
Here's what I'm really getting at. What do you think of Vinnie Vincent coming back?
Oh, there's no way he's coming back. There's no way that guy is coming back.
He wouldn't even show up. No.
No, he wouldn't show up. There's no way. There's no way. Even if he was invited, I would think Paul Stanley, having the humor that he does, he would invite Vinny, and then the night before he'd be like, "Oh, I'm just kidding. Yeah, gotcha."
I think Doc said that they'd be willing to have him though.
Yeah, no, there's no way. There's
that would
no
be
way.
So crazy.
There's no way he would do that because, he's ripped off all the fans, with these concerts that he's trying to do. The Vinnie Vincent's going to shred in Nashville, but now he can't, so he's going to open up a recording studio. So everything could sound as perfect as I want it to sound. So we're going to a studio where I'm comfortable, and 11 people are going to show up. It's going to be great. No, he's never going to be there. If Vinnie Vincent had come back, at that Atlanta convention and kind of kept the momentum going and delivered things that he said he was going to deliver, I think there might have been a chance, but it's the same Vinnie. It's the same Vinnie. This guy, you give him the keys to the kingdom, he's there hanging himself. So no, Vinnie Vincent won't be back. I would like to see something, even if it's just a cool retrospective 45-second video of Eric Carr on the screen. I would like to see that.
Yes.
But Peter, Chris, and Ace Frehley are not going to be putting that makeup back on, and they're not going to be playing a full show. Anyone that thinks that is on drugs.
Some big predictions there. I like it a lot, and you know what? I sort of agree with you, and I also have this feeling that if the last show was at Madison Square Garden, a guy like Vinnie Vincent, even though you're part of the history, if you've ripped off your own fans for so long and you can't even show up to a little gig, I don't think you deserve to play Madison Square Garden.
No, I don't. I don't think it's going to be at Madison Square Garden. I think the last show is probably going to be in Central Park or at Citi Field. Really? I'm actually hoping it's going to be at Citi Field because trying to get that production into Central Park, and it's just I just don't see. I don't see it being a good experience for the people that show up.
Where'd you hear Central Park? Is that a rumor?
Yeah, it's just a rumor. It's just the rumors are Central Park and Citi Field. So, that's where I think it's going to be at one of those. I don't think it's going to be at Madison Square Garden. I think all the shows that they've played so far on the End of the Road tour, it's going to be that for that venue. I don't think they're going to revisit venues. They might revisit certain cities or certain markets, but I don't think they're going to come back to the Forum, or I don't think they're going to come back to places that they've already played before.
Yeah,
I
I could see that.
I could be wrong. I don't think I am, but I could be wrong. But I really believe that wherever they've been, they're not going to head back to. So I think that they're probably going to, come back to the New York area. They have to, and I think they're going to play, one of those, Citi Field or Central Park. I think it would be cool if they played a club in New York City, the night before they're supposed to, play Central Park. I think that would be really, really cool, because what's cool about Kiss' history is it's so vast that you can kind of pick certain time periods that you like at certain points of your life, depending on what's going on. And I've always revisited those 1992 club shows. Imagine if you got that in 2019 or 2020 or 2021 or whenever it's going to be. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, they could rent out the loft and break out the windows or go on the roof of the building or something and do an outdoor concert.
Yeah, something like the Beatles did,
Seriously.
But I think that'd be cool. I think to see them, perform at a little club would be cool. I mean, they did something like that a couple of years ago for the John Varvatos thing. They performed. It was actually I don't remember the venue. It might have been the old CBGB's, because the old CBGB's is a John Varvatos store now. But they performed at a little club in New York City in 2014 for that John Varvatos thing.
That's awesome.
Let me log on to the great kissfaq.com.
Get all the answers.
To figure out when that was. It was no. Man, when was that?
I think that was like 2012, 2014.
Was it 2012? I thought it was. I could have sworn. You know what? We're gonna put a pause on that. I could have sworn it was 2014.
Yeah, it was like 14, 15.
But I don't think. I don't. I know they did that Fashion Rocks event, and then maybe it was 2013. Anyway, at some point they had done that. But I think what I'm getting at is I think it would have been very, very cool of them. Okay, it was 2013, September 9th, 2013.
Okay.
It was at Dumbo's in New York City.
There we go, Dumbo's.
At Dumbo's in New York City. So
like I know
anyway,
where that is.
Yeah. Well, it's by it's like in the it's in the district under the Manhattan Bridge.
Okay,
kind of,
gotcha.
Yeah. It's like the Brooklyn area.
Okay, and they also did the House of Blues in L.A. too, the little club recently.
Yes. That was for an event. It was that was actually February 14th, 2014.
Okay.
Yep, February 14th, 2014, where it was for the Mending Kids. And that was actually a really, really great show. You could see that online, so I highly recommend you checking that out. Anyway, we're way off topic here.
It's okay. At least we got to the bottom of it.
Yeah, we got to the bottom of that. I mean, I love Kiss facts like that. That's my forte.
Well, me too, and I know the listeners are, especially anybody who's listening to this, they can definitely relate. So I don't think anyone minds here. Andrew, I thank you for your time, though, man. This has been an awesome conversation, and I enjoy the film. I think it's really cool. I think it's a great look back, a great time capsule, and thanks for all your work. It's great.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me talk about my history and this film. Again, if you want to see the film, you can see it. It's available on Vimeo because YouTube has blocked it due to their algorithms, not because of any legalities of anything like that. So just they're silly. But if you want to follow the film, it's facebook.com/greatest show on Earth Kiss. And you'll be able to get a link on there. I'm sure Cassius will have the link up in the written matter.
That's right.
If you want to see the other one, because I did another little film, I made it set like it was a 70s TV special called Kiss at Midnight. You can see that on YouTube and Vimeo as well. That came out in June. And just stay tuned. There's something else coming that I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but there's something else coming. So keep a lookout on Friday the 13th, assuming this airs before then. But if it does, just go back to Friday the 13th and see what it was.
Exactly. No, it's coming out. No, yeah, perfect. And thank you again for your time, my man. And definitely encourage everyone to check it out. Greatest show on earth.
Yeah, thank you so much.